history of the National Football League. We can talk about the talent that Patrick Mahomes has now and how he's on the scene. Let's see him do that for a decade and sustain that level of success, which I believe he will, by the way. But Aaron Rodgers, just as a talent, certainly not resume, because his resume doesn't compare to Brady and various others, but as a talent, he may be the greatest quarterback that ever played this game. When you consider the kind of things that he can do with that football, this man is that special. And for some reason, you're satisfied with the receiving corps that you have. The Devontae Adams, the Valdez Scantlers of the world, and others. I think you should upgrade at that spot. But more importantly, just as equally important, rather, is your linebacking crew. I mean, you gave up 163 yards to Dalvin Cook, who can ball, who's a stud, and we get all of that. But when you saw the way Minnesota has been playing, and then you look at the way they looked against Green Bay this past weekend, clearly you got to do something because you can run on the Green Bay Packers. It says that they ranked 15th against the rush in the National Football League. I would contend that they're not that impressive at all. They're probably worse than the numbers even indicate. You can run on the Green Bay Packers. You can engage in ball control on the Green Bay Packers. They need to buffer up their defense, particularly at the linebacking spot, and they could get a receiver as well. I'd like to see them to do something, however, to help Aaron Rodgers. Anything that you can do, because the fact that you continuously ask this man to carry the load on his shoulders that you've carried, and then when you have an opportunity to draft people, you draft his successor as opposed to doing something else. It just gnaws away at me. Get Aaron Rodgers some damn help on one side of the ball or the other. I don't care. I'd prefer the wide receiving corps, but do whatever the hell you can to help this man because he deserves it. I'd say Green Bay is a team that really, really needs to make a move before the trading deadline expires.
I respect that because it's easier also to integrate like one defensive piece if they're a standout into a team that looks ready if only they could beef up the defense. So I respect that. But I'll stay in the NFC North and take a team other than the Packers. I think the Bears need help on the offensive line. I think they're closer than people realize. Were they exposed against not just the Saints, but the Rams, who were like, styles make fights. The Rams were a bad matchup for them. Here comes Aaron Donald. You don't have an offensive line. You don't have a pocket to step up into. The punter is pinning you back on your own 5, seemingly on every possession where they don't score. It was a bad matchup for them. But they were competitive against the Saints. And even at times against the Rams, you go, wait, could they be back in this game? They're the type of team that can grind seemingly superior teams down because of their defense in games that could be decided at the end. And in that case, I do like Nick Foles under center. With an Allen Robinson, they don't have a whole lot else at receiver and some decent running backs if you can protect them. Foles is not the kind of guy who's going to lift an ordinary team to great heights. That's for sure. We know that. He hasn't been playing well. But if you can protect him, not to mention block for the run, he is the type of quarterback who's not going to hold you back from winning. And then in the moment of truth, he'll perform really well. We've seen it time and again from him. So I'm looking at the Bears. I'm looking at the O-line. They need help. 1, maybe 2 offensive linemen. And I know to integrate them, it takes a while. But I think people are sleeping on them a little bit. They are pretenders at this moment because they don't have an O-line. But you plug 1 or 2 guys in there, and maybe they turn into contenders.
I like what both of you guys went, but I'm going to the AFC North, and I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. They need a weapon on the outside. Listen, I know Lamar Jackson performances, and he gets the brunt of the blame. But when we look at Greg Roman, especially in this Pittsburgh game, when we look at their ability to run the football, and you are only needing a few plays to flip the game as far as throwing the ball downfield, I feel like they are relying too much on the fact that Lamar Jackson can extend plays and hoping at some point Mark Andrews can get open or be dominant. And they just don't have what it takes, guys, on the outside. It's not there. And, you see the reason they signed Dez Bryant. And I went back, I wanted to look at Greg Roman's track record. I wanted to look at some things he had. When he had captain San Francisco, you know who the receivers were? It was Anquan Bolden and Crabtree. If Anquan Bolden and Crabtree played for the Baltimore Ravens, we'd be talking about this team winning a Super Bowl. If they had just that talent on the outside at the wide receiver spot, we'll be talking about this team potentially being one of the best teams when they were playing at the level that they were playing with when he had them in San Francisco. I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens, who racked up over 200 yards rushing against one of the best rush defenses in the league. Still had a chance to win the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not enough evolution in the passing game and not enough guys on the outside. I'm not talking about the tight ends. Enough guys on the outside to threaten being able to maybe blow the doors off of some teams that they play against. It's not Lamar Jackson. Lamar understands what he needs to do. Can't turn the ball over 4 times in that game. Last year was 3. But it's also based in him trying to make every single play instead of having guys he can look out there to, facilitate a pass, and let them do what they do with the ball in their hands. Or having a guy like Russell Wilson has found with DK Metcalf to say, hey, you go one-on-one and I'm going to throw this rock up to you and you make a play. They don't have that guy on the Ravens roster. I would love to see them get a receiver and get some help for Lamar Jackson. It's been what I've been crying about, the evolution of this passing game. And for as much as we talk about Cap and his ability to run and what he did from an athletic standpoint, being able to run RPO and being the quarterback to open up a lot of things offensively, Anquan Bolden is one of the best wide receivers to play in this league at what he did. And when Crabtree was rolling, he was the 50-50 ball guy that made a lot of plays in this league. Lamar Jackson has not had that. And I think if he gets it, we can start really legitimately talking about the Ravens being a Super Bowl contender and even winning one.
If he can perform under pressure, but we've already seen Foles perform under pressure. And like he's taking 4 and 5 sacks a game, guys. They can't protect him. I think the Bears, who've gone, such a great football town, and they harp on 85. It's been so long, and they have a championship caliber defense that's being wasted, not because the offense, they have nothing at all, but because they can't protect the quarterback or block for the run. Stephen A., if they bolster that offensive line, I really think the division's a 2-team race.
For me personally, when you bring that up, Marcus, my attitude is I thought that Antonio Brown was somebody that they should have gone after. Not just because of his electrifying ability, but also because he would have been highly motivated to be within that same division, ultimately ending up going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought that could have been something that the Baltimore Ravens could have pulled off if they were really committed to doing so. But obviously that wasn't the case. That wasn't their mindset.
And play with his cousin, but instead, you know what it is, guys, the rich get richer. And speaking of the Tampa Bay Bucks, we got to get back to Monday Night Football because the GOAT is getting plenty of attention, fellas, in Tampa, but is too much praise being thrown at TB12. Of course, you want to hear from Max Kellerman on that subject. The Men of Steel remain the only unbeaten team in football, so will Stephen A. finally give his Steelers their props? Stephen A., you can't have the fresh cut, the fresh fit, and mess this list up, all right? Stephen A.'s list coming up next.
Oh yeah, you know what time it is, y'all. It's about that time. Know what time it is. Time. Steven's A-list. My top 5.